There's this idea that science is all about making things perfect. But that's not really the story. The real story, the one we're diving into today, is about making things work in the messy, chaotic, real world. It's about taking these incredibly powerful but super fragile building blocks and finding a clever way to stop them from destroying themselves. So yeah, let's get right into it. Just imagine for a second. You invent the most revolutionary material ever. Game-changing stuff. But there's a huge catch. The split second you create it, it either smashes itself together into a useless clump, or it just, poof, reacts with the air and falls apart. This is the exact head-banging against the wall problem scientists have been facing at the nanoscale. All right, so let's get to the heart of this thing. We got to understand our main characters here, these nanoparticles, and, the huge forces that are stacked against them from the very moment they're created. Okay, so what we're talking about are called nanophase powders. And when I say small, I mean it's almost impossible to wrap your head around. Just picture a single human hair. Got it? These particles are thousands of times thinner than that. They are the absolute key ingredients for the next generation of materials. Think stronger, lighter, you name it. But here's the kicker. These tiny things have two major self-destruct buttons. First, there's something called agglomeration. They're so small and energetic, they just desperately want to stick together. It's like trying to work with a single speck of wet flour. It's not going to happen. It just instantly clumps up. And second, the really good ones, the pure ones, are ridiculously reactive. The moment they touch air, they oxidize. It's like they rust in a split second, and boom, all their amazing properties are gone. So you see the problem, right? On one hand, the goal is this beautiful collection of separate, pure, usable particles. But the reality? It's this useless, oxidized brick. This is where the whole idea of perfect just falls apart. The real genius isn't in making a theoretically perfect particle, it's in figuring out how to make one that can actually survive long enough to be used. So how in the world do you solve this? Well, you don't try to fight the physics of the particle. No, you get clever. You outsmart the problem. You give each one a tiny little shield. And this is the core idea, and it is just brilliant. If the particles are too fragile to exist on their own, why not just give every single one its own tiny, custom-fit, disposable suit of armor? A temporary shield that protects it from everything, even its own neighbors. And then you just wash it off when you're ready. The official name for this is encapsulation. And the material they use for this suit of armor. You'd think it's something super exotic, right? Nope, it's just salt. Right as the nanoparticle is born inside a fiery flame, it gets coated in a protective little shell of salt vapor. It's so elegant and it just works. So why salt? Well, it's kind of perfect. It ticks all the boxes. First, the physical coating stops the particles from clumping together. Problem 1, solved. It also seals the particle away from the air, which stops that instant rusting. Problem 2, solved. And the best part, when you need the pure particle, you just rinse it with water, the salt dissolves, and you're left with the pristine, perfect condition nanoparticles you wanted from the start. Okay, so we know what they do, but how they actually get that armor onto every single particle? Now this is where things get really, really cool. It's not like they just spray paint them, it's more like a tiny, perfectly choreographed scavenger hunt happening right inside a flame. The research paper puts it like this. The coarse mode then acts to scavenge the fine mode. Which, okay, I get it. That sounds super technical. But what it's describing is this beautiful self-organizing system. Basically, two different groups of particles get created inside the flame. And the whole job of the bigger ones is to find and collect the smaller ones. Let's just break it down. First, the core nanoparticles, the ones we actually want, are born inside the flame. Next, a salt vapor is released, and it condenses around them, forming that shield. And then, and this is the brilliant part, not all the salt is used for shielding. Some of it clumps together to form a second group of bigger, salt-only particles. And finally, these big, clumsy salt particles go on a scavenger hunt, bumping into and collecting all the smaller, armor-plated nanoparticles into these nice, manageable groups. So that's the idea. It's beautiful on paper, right? An incredibly elegant way to use physics to your advantage. But the big question is always the same. Does it actually, work? Let's look at the results. Oh yeah, it works. In fact, it works so well it's almost hard to believe. The researchers found that the encapsulation efficiency, that's just the percentage of nanoparticles that actually get their suit of armor, gets ridiculously close to 100%, basically perfect.
And that number, that close to 100%, is everything. See, it's not good enough if most of them are protected. Even a few unshielded particles can act like a bad apple and start a chain reaction that ruins the whole batch. Getting to nearly 100% means the process isn't just a neat trick, it's robust, it's reliable, it's actually useful.
And here's maybe the best proof of all. It doesn't just work in a calm, stable, pristine lab flame. It also works in a chaotic, messy, turbulent flame, the kind you'd find in a real factory. This proves it's not some fragile little experiment. This process is tough. It was designed from the ground up to work, not just to be theoretically pretty.
So let's zoom out for a second. What does all of this add up to? Well, by figuring out how to make these incredibly delicate particles workable, we unlock their enormous potential. We finally have the building blocks for tomorrow's technology.
And look, this is a huge deal. It's a game changer because it cracks one of the biggest bottlenecks in materials science. It means we can finally have large-scale production of these amazing materials. It solves the incredibly expensive and difficult handling problems that have held the whole field back for years. This isn't just some tiny step forward. This opens the door to so many new technologies we've only been able to dream about.
So in the end, this is a story about finding a practical, brilliant solution in one of the most chaotic places imaginable, a flame. It wasn't about trying to defy physics. It was about cleverly using it. Which kind of leaves us with one last thought. If an answer this elegant can be found inside a fire, where are we going to find the next breakthrough that changes everything? Thanks for watching.